السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقديرنا بها من جميع السيئات وتقديرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلاة وسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. We sort of started talking about Imam Husain AS last week, and inshallah we'll continue with that, for the next couple of weeks. As I was saying last week, what someone says or someone does is directly proportional to their own significance. And so when we look at Imam Husain AS, if we don't know anything else about him, then we know that he is the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that honestly by itself should be enough for us. Unfortunately for many of us it's not. And the reason it's not is because we think of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam like anybody else. And so his grandson is also just like any other grandson. Which in reality, of course, is not the case. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Habibullah. He is the beloved of Allah. Which, because we have a hard time understanding love these days, in this narcissistic world, that also unfortunately just kind of goes over most of our heads. The definition of love, of true love, and true love for us is only for Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then the ones that they love. But the definition of true love is that the lover cannot see any faults or shortcomings in his beloved, nor can he hear or listen to, or willing to listen to, any shortcomings or faults in his beloved. So true love makes one deaf and blind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only the lover of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He is the creator of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So He has created him without any shortcomings, without any faults. And He has created from him and for him Ahlul Bayt, which includes Imam Hassan and Imam Husain AS. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about them, He said, Allah loves those who love them. So that if we want Allah to love us, then that's conditional upon our love for Hassan and Hussein. And again, this isn't from the books of history, this is from the books of hadith. So when we look at Imam Husain AS, we mentioned a little bit about his birth last week. So before he's born, the aunt of Rasulullah Fadl, she sees this dream where she sees a piece of Rasulullah being cut off and landing in her lap. And Rasulullah tells her that this is a good dream because she was very upset. He says, no, this is a good dream. This means that a son will be born in the house of Fatima and you will be the first to hold him. Which she was. And as we mentioned, as she's holding him, Rasulullah comes in and he says, give me my son. And she says that I have not cleansed him yet, I have not cleaned him yet. And he says, sallallahu that can the water of this world clean him? He's already pure. So he takes him, and the first nourishment, these days, babies born, and the first nourishment is they stick an artificial bottle in your mouth with milk that who knows comes from where. And this is the first nourishment that the kids these days receive. The first nourishment that Imam Husain AS received in this world was the blessed saliva of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, directly from the tongue of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we can't even begin to imagine the knowledge, the authority, all of what is being transferred at that moment. Because we also forget that he is the blood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu, as a young boy, when he drank, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would practice bloodletting. One thing known as cupping, that's the difference. He also practiced cupping, but he also practiced bloodletting, which was taking the blood out. And these days, it used to be that, you told a doctor about this, an MD, and he said, oh, that's just, voodoo magic, voodoo medicine. And now they tell you that anyone who gives blood regularly has a 50% less chance of having heart issues, because iron is a very powerful oxidant. This is why women, before a certain age, have far fewer cardiac issues than men. Men don't lose blood naturally. And so people who give blood normally, regularly, they have 50% less issues with heart attacks. So one of those times when the blood was drawn, and he tells Abdullah ibn Zubair to take this and throw it away. And he leaves with it and then comes back. There's no more blood in the cup. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him, he says, what did you do? The question in itself tells you he knew what he did. Because if I tell somebody, go do this, and he goes and he comes back, if I don't know what he did, I assume he did what I told him to do. And this isn't just anybody, this is the companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when he tells them to do something, they do it. But here Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him, what did you do? And he said, Ya Rasulullah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I thought that where can I throw this where it won't be disrespected? And it smelled so good, it smelled better than musk, so I thought, well, let me just drink it. So I drank it. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says to him, he says that woe unto you for what the people will do to you, and woe unto the people for what you will do to them, but my blood and the fire of hell cannot be together. And of course, these days everybody's got to find some issues, so there are certain people that say, oh no, he was just a young boy, and so, this doesn't mean anything. But then they forget that in the battle of Uhud, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was injured, the chain links, 2 links of chain that embedded into his cheek, and when they were pulled out, the blood was pulsating. And Malik bin Sinan radhiyallahu anhu takes that into his mouth, catches it and drinks it. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him, why did you do this? And he says, Ya Rasulullah, how can I allow your blood to touch the ground? And again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to him the same thing, that my blood and the fire of hell cannot be together. And Malik bin Sinan radhiyallahu anhu is the father of Abu Sayyid Khudri radhiyallahu anhu. So if for them, the ones who simply drank the blood of Rasulullah, Rasulullah says that you will not be, the fire of hell will not touch you. This is what he's saying to them. What about the one through whose veins courses the blood and arteries, the blood of Rasulullah is flowing? He is Sayyid al-Shabab al-Ahl al-Jannah. Imam Husain and Imam Husain AS, they are the leaders of the youth of Jannah. And, leader, of course, these days, we think of leaders as some politician or something. This is not what Sayyid is. Sayyid is your leader, your master, the one that you follow. He is the one whose footsteps you want to emulate. And so Imam Husain and Imam Husain AS are the leaders of the youth of Jannah. And everybody in Jannah will be a youth. Doesn't matter how old you are when you die here, you will be a youth when you enter paradise. And your leader will be Hassan and Hussein, alayhimus salam. And if you don't approve of them as your leader, then you need to find some other place to go. These are all certificates being given to them by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. And in actuality, certificates being given to them by Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today is the 3rd of Muharram, which obviously means that yesterday was the 2nd of Muharram. And then in the year 61 Hijri, on the 2nd of Muharram, is when Imam Husain AS, along with those with him, arrived in Karbala. Karbala is actually a combination of 2 words. Karb, Karbo, Bala, which means a place where something difficult happens. And the name is not a random name. This also, if you look at the hadith, not the history books, again the hadith, you see where Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam refers to this place as Karbala. The original name, one of the original names was Taf. And then you have a village next to it, Nineveh. When they arrive at that position, because they're supposed to be going to Kufa, and he has along with him 72 who had joined him from the original journey from Mecca, and then a few who joined him along the way, who have not left him, because there were many who joined him along the way and then left him. Everybody says, oh, I love you. When times are good, I love you. And when things get tough, that's when you know who's really with you and who's not. This is why, there are specific things where Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would not allow other people to join. He says, you weren't with us when times were tough, you can't be with us now. Because when times are easy, everybody comes. You look at the Battle of Khaybar. The only people that could join Khaybar, the expedition to Khaybar, were the 1,400 who had joined him in Hudaybiyah. Because in Hudaybiyah, everybody was saying, oh, you're walking to your death. So many people said, we aren't going. This is suicide mission. And now they're headed toward Khaybar, and everybody's thinking, we can get some spoils of war here. Good opportunity. And he said, no, only those who joined us in Khaybar can come now. Same thing in Uhud. After Uhud, when the Muslims pursued Quraysh, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, only those who were with us in Uhud can join us now. So when the armies of Yazid started coming, there were those who had joined Imam Husain AS, along the way, who started leaving. And so when they arrive in Karbala, again, it's only a small group. And when they arrive in Karbala, there is a person who's walking by, and Imam Husain AS asked him, what is the name of this place? He knew what the name of the place was, but he wanted everybody else to understand what the name of this place was. And so when the man said Taf, he said, we will pitch our tents here. Because this is the place that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us. With great position comes great responsibility. The responsibilities of the common man are not the same as the responsibilities of someone who's the leader. This is common sense. Of course, these days it's the opposite, because we live in an opposite world. just like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that when Dajjal comes, he will have with him paradise and have with him hell, and whoever goes into his paradise will end up in hell, and whoever goes into his hell will end up in paradise, because the perceptions of everything will be the opposite, and we're seeing that today with the fitna of Dajjal. What is good is bad, and what is bad is good. Even things that 20 years ago were considered abomination are now considered normal. So when they pitch their tents, because he says this is where we stop, those who are truly his followers, none of them say, why are we stopping here? Because they also know why they've come. And they understand the status and the maqam and the position of Imam Husain AS. And they also understand, because of that position, the test will always be harder. But because of their love for him, they have no problems with it. They came ready to give their lives and their wealth and everything else, because they truly love him. You know, there are these modern day so-called scholars, and they're not even modern day, even you know, historically you look at people, because hypocrisy has always been there. And hypocrisy will be there until the end. You know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us certain criteria of a hypocrite. And everybody talks about, well, you know, when he speaks, he lies. When he makes a promise, he breaks it. You know, if you give him a trust, he violates it. But he also told us some other criteria. And one of the main criteria is that the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use to figure out who is who, is that the hypocrite will always have issues with Ahlul Bayt. No hypocrite will love Ali, karamallahu wajh. And again, these aren't things that I'm saying from the books of history. These are things that are mentioned in the hadith. And again, in the hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Allah loves those who love Hassan and Hussein, the opposite is also true. See, we forget, you know, again, because we keep forgetting that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not like us, and we are not like him. So we think that just because we run our mouths and we keep talking and just, you know, we say things just to be saying things, we forget that he was not that way. If you read any description of him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether it's from Ma'bad radiallahu anha, or Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajh, or any other companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who spoke about him and described his character and him, they will all tell you that he only spoke when necessary. He didn't just simply throw words out. And everything he said had weight, had meaning. So when he says that Allah loves those who love Hassan and Hussein, again, the opposite is also true. Allah does not love those who do not love Hassan and Hussein. And so when we look at this, you know, again, hypocrites have always been around. So then you have detractors. You know, because a hypocrite doesn't come and tell you he's a hypocrite. Otherwise, he's not a hypocrite. You know, the hypocrite is the one who's hiding his reality. So he comes and he tells you, oh, you know, I love Hassan and Hussein. Alayhimus salam. But then everything he does and everything he says from that point forward detracts from their position. You know, and as they say here, as we say here in the South, you know, if someone shows you who they are, believe them. People can tell you anything. But if someone shows you who they are, believe them. I mean, you know, politicians are telling us who they are all the time. Everything they do is the opposite of what they just told you. And people still don't get it. And it's not just here, this is global. Because people are global. And we truly are living in this global world now. You know, because of the phones and the internet, there's nothing, oh, this used to go on over there, but it doesn't go on. Everything's the same everywhere now. But what they say is, oh, see, there were companions who told Imam Husain AS not to go. So there must be something wrong with him going. You know, and they'll mention Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Ja'far, and a couple of other companions. And they'll tell, oh, see, they told him not to go. Then why did he go? And then see, these companions are telling him not to go. Well, Imam Husain AS is not just a companion, he's also the son of a companion, and he's not just a son of a companion, he is the grandson of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And if you look at what they actually were saying to him, they didn't say don't go because you're taking the wrong step. They said please don't go because you know the people of Kufa, and you know what they did to your father, and you know what they did to your brother, and they are not reliable, they are not trustworthy. So we fear that they will betray you. Not because what he's doing is wrong. None of them said what he was doing was wrong. They all said don't go because they will betray you and we fear for you. But Imam Husain AS was looking at things from a very different perspective. You know, if you look at the history of Islam, and you look at the history of Islam, you know, within the first 100 years after Rasulullah, you know, it becomes, or during the time of the companions, which literally is, you know, the last companion passed away 106 Hijri. Abu Tufail Amr bin Wathla, radiallahu anhu. 106 Hijri, he passed away. His history is very interesting as well. He was a young boy when Rasulullah made Hajj, and his mother brought him to Rasulullah in her arms, and Rasulullah placed his blessed hand on his head. The hair underneath the place that Rasulullah placed his hand never turned white. All the other hair turned white except for that hair. He never cut that hair. And the way we know this is that one time he was sitting with some group and he took his turban off and you see this long hair just fall out. And they said, what is this? He says, this is where Rasulullah placed his blessed hand. You know, in love, many of the rules change. But anyway, 106 Hijri, he passed away. Karbala happened 61 Hijri, in the middle of the era of the companions. And this is why Imam Husain AS, when he went to the army of Yazid, he said, you know who I am. And if you don't know who I am, then there are people amongst you who know who I am. Why are you doing this? Time's up. We'll continue from here next week, inshallah, talking about Imam Husain AS and make a few announcements after Jummah. Brother will give the first adhan, and then we'll make sunnah, and then the regular routine, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with His love and the love of His beloved Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love. And may He allow us to understand the status and position and maqam and the actions of Imam Husain AS and those with him. Wa akhiru da'wana, alhamdulillah.